let's go to this ranking. I love this from hoopshype.com. They do this with all the positions, ranking the top, and then they go with the positions. 25 power forwards for the upcoming season. So I'm going to give you real quick. The Mavericks have two guys on this list. Dorian Finney-Smith is number 23. Derek, that is besides Luka, that is your favorite player on the Mavs, correct?
He's one of them, yeah. I would say yes. He's up there.
All right, let me tell you what they say about him. A role-playing force with the Mavs, Finney-Smith has settled in wonderfully in his starting role over the past few campaigns, even if he may not be the prototypical starting power forward. Tasked with spacing the floor from three, cutting off the ball, thriving in transition, and most importantly, defending often multiple positions on the floor, Finney-Smith does all the dirty work for Dallas while rarely seeking out his own stats. So they go in a little bit more, but that gives you an idea of the way they define him. I'm going to tell you something. I'll say it again. I was wrong when they gave Dorian Finney-Smith the contract. From that point, he elevated his game to another level. In fact, this is going to contradict what I said about 6 months ago, because this is not right for Dorian Finney-Smith. You name me the player that's better than him, because he's at 23. Okay. And I was like, oh, that's pretty good, but not that great. They have Jabari Smith, the recent draft pick, as being better going into this season than Dorian Finney-Smith. If you're telling me for this upcoming season, I can trade Dorian Finney-Smith for Jabari Smith and I get their careers, I'd be like, well, maybe I would. It's a risk, but maybe I'll take the recently drafted number 3 overall pick for Dorian Finney-Smith. But this upcoming season, there's no way Jabari Smith should be ranked higher than Dorian Finney-Smith. I
feel like Dorian's going to have a really good year this year. I think it's going to be big. The contract helped ease a lot for him.
Yeah.
And he's such a key player with Luka out there.
Yeah.
You see how well he plays defense. You see how well Luka moves the ball with Dorian. It helps out. It helps with the rest of the team too. When you have him out there, he's a threat. You can't just leave him wide open. He will shoot. You know, we've had discussions before on our Twitch, stream together about the Mavs after the games. I think Dorian should be higher up on that list, but that it could be because I'm a homer when it comes to this.
Yeah, that's where, homerism might play in here. I feel like I'm the least homerish when it comes to the role players on the Mavs, but come on, you can't take the 3rd overall pick who's never played a second of basketball and say he's already better than Dorian Finney-Smith, who helped you get to the conference finals.
That's why I hate when guys do that. You put somebody in front that hasn't even stepped foot on the court. How can you do that? You don't know what he's going to do. He can go out there and absolutely poo the bed. He might not play very well.
Now, the next guy
I just wanted to add, I think there might be something about the body type. They're like, well, that just matches up better. 6'10" versus a 6'7" lanky guy, and they get pushed down.
I was surprised they put him on the power forward list, but I get it. The way that the Mavericks are presenting it and the way that he finished the season, once you traded Porzingis away, he did play the power forward role, if you want to say that. On the Dallas Mavericks.
But you're right. I love the fearlessness of I'll take on anybody as my defender, and if you give me the ball to shoot, I will not hesitate to shoot.
Do you feel like after Porzingis left, that kind of gave him more of the relief of like, okay, I can be that guy? You can count on me.
He had to play a little bit bigger role, and he did.
That's what I'm saying.
He really stepped into it. I think that he, to your point, Derek, he's going to be a key part of if the Mavericks are going to get back to a home court advantage in the regular season where you're a top 4 seed and win in the playoffs. Dorian Finney-Smith needs to even become a little bit better as of now. When you're going into what you have right now, losing Jalen Brunson, there's going to be a hair of maybe an offensive drop-off from the perimeter, but maybe I'm wrong because we'll get to Christian Wood in a second on what he can bring. But there could be more of a responsibility on Dorian Finney-Smith this season than going into last season. Number 21 is Wendell Carter Jr. I get his numbers. 15 points, 10.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists. I get that he has better overall numbers than Dorian Finney-Smith, and I like Wendell Carter Jr. I'd love him to be on the Mavericks, but I do think right now Dorian Finney-Smith has a bigger impact on the game than Wendell Carter Jr. does. This one, come on, we just saw him play in the playoffs. Cam Johnson of Phoenix. We just saw Cam Johnson. His ass is laying on the ground when Luka's crossing him up and shooting over him. You're telling me Cam Johnson I love hoops hype, by the way. But you're telling me Cam Johnson, who we just played in the playoffs, coming off the bench for the Phoenix Suns, is a better player than Dorian Finney-Smith? This one, to me, I'm like, Cam Johnson's way overrated here if Dorian Finney-Smith is 23. Number 19, Aaron Gordon. I get what he does. I get that he's a good player. To me, I'd rather have Dorian Finney-Smith than Aaron Gordon. Number 18 on the list, Kyle Kuzma. This one's tough for me because I can see his scoring ability, but if you said right now you could trade Dorian Finney-Smith for Kyle Kuzma, I would say no. I would rather have Dorian Finney-Smith. So you're talking about a 180 turn for me. That's where it is. Now, real quick before you say anything here, Corey, number 17 is interesting because he's a former Dallas Maverick, is Harrison Barnes. What do you guys think of Harrison Barnes versus Dorian Finney-Smith?
I guess because of the change of the world to power forward, like in the world of power forwards, he's interesting because he did learn how to play in the post a little bit while he was working with Rick Carlisle. They were like, hey, get in here and do some post work. I like that he can do that, and he can also shoot three-pointers. I thought he was just a three-point guy in Golden State, but he has some other qualities that go along with it.
Derek, do you think that Harrison Barnes is better than Dorian Finney-Smith?
At this point, no. Right now, no. I'd actually still even no.
All right, so here we go. I'm going to skip a few and go to Christian Wood. He's number 15 on the list, and I'm going to tell you something. If Christian Wood is only the 15th best power forward at the end of the year, we're not making it out of the first round. He has to be better than this. I get why they're ranking him there because he was on arguably the worst team in the NBA, or one of the worst in the Houston Rockets. But he needs to be at the end of this. This is my expectation. If he doesn't live up to this, I'm going to be crushing Christian Wood. He needs to be arguably a top 30 player in the NBA at the end of this year. I'm not saying he makes the All-Star team, but he needs to be in that conversation. And at the end of the year, we need to be talking about, do we have a top 30 player in the league? Okay.
I do want to say one guy that I feel like he's getting passed up that should be up there a little bit higher too, Aaron Gordon of Denver.
Well, he was ranked. I mentioned him a minute ago.
Mike flew
he was
right
19.
by him.
I think that Dorian, to me, would you trade Dorian Finney-Smith for Aaron Gordon?
Because I'm a homer, I'm going to say no.
Okay.
It's tough for me to do that. I do like.
He's not as good
Gordon,
of a three-point shooter as
100%,
Dorian, but I think he can bounce to the basket better.
Gordon averaged, just to give you this, 15 points, 6 rebounds, 2.5 assists while shooting 52% from the floor and 33.5% from three. So it says solid numbers from him, and they look at him. Here's the thing about him, which could be good for him, is he's going to be their fourth option offensively if they're healthy. If Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. come back healthy, Michael Porter Jr., good luck with him being healthy. But, he kind of plays a little bit of a smaller role on the Nuggets than Dorian Finney-Smith is probably going to have to play on the Dallas Mavericks. All right, real quick. I know I'm running out of time here. Your top 5 power forwards in the NBA. Number 1 is really easy, even though it's not pulling up. It is the Greek Freak. I mean, without a doubt, he is the best in the NBA.
He's got a good future in front of him.
Number 2, if he's healthy, is Anthony Davis. I agree with that if he's healthy. He just is rarely healthy.
If he's healthy.
Number 3, Karl-Anthony Towns. It'll be interesting to see in the last 5 minutes how him and Rudy Gobert play together. Number 4, overranked because it's all based on potential. It's Fatty Zion. And if he can stay healthy, then maybe he is. But my God, we're going to give Zion a top 4 player at his position when he's played in about 55 games in 3 years.
Yeah, I definitely think he needs to be back farther. There's guys that should be in front of him that are actually playing that earn that spot.
Like Pascal Siakam, number 5. So those are your top 5 power forwards in the NBA. I do think Christian Wood needs to be in this conversation. When we talk about top 5 power forwards, when we get close to the end of the year, we need to be talking about him with Pascal Siakam. Evan Mobley's number 6, who was a rookie last year. We need to be talking about he's as good or better than Evan Mobley and Pascal Siakam if we're going to go deep into the playoffs.
What do you think then, like, he can do better? Is it just his defensive effort on that side of the ball?
Because Christian Wood?
Because he's going to be with Luka.
I think here's the deal. Because he's been on such a crappy team in Houston, he came there to be James Harden's running mate. And then James Harden said, I don't want to play for you anymore. And so he had to play on a rebuilding team. He was on rebuilding Detroit when he jumped onto the scene. Then he unfortunately thought he was going to a good team, but then went to rebuilding Houston. He's never played on a winning team, a good team, as a key contributor. So I think for him, it will be as good offensively as you were and also rebounding the ball. But the effort and energy level on the defensive end has to be a lot better. And Sean Sweeney, who was in Detroit when Christian Wood was in Detroit, thank you to Chris Arnold for giving me this information months ago. Sean Sweeney spoke up in that meeting when they were thinking about trading for Christian Wood and said, I really believe, knowing the kid a while back, 4 years ago, that I can get the energy and effort out of him to be a decent defensive player. The ability is there, is the mentality there. And Sean Sweeney believes he can get the mentality out of the athletic ability.